Go back to the fate that restrains. Don't you want to be rich? Recently, while thinking about my life, I wanted to be rich. A book titled The Retrograde has caught my eye. That says economic freedom can be realized when such a mind arises. It was the best-selling book in bookstores nationwide last year, and it has maintained a bestseller for a long time. If you look at the cover of the book, it says it's a 7-step life storybook that achieves complete freedom from money, time, and destiny. And through her efforts to become a retrograde performer, the author has completed more than 100 million won in automatic monthly income. While reading the book, I wondered if there is really such a way. And is it possible? For those of us living in a capitalist society, the way to gain economic freedom will come as a tremendous attraction. Then, before we enter the book's body, let's summarize the concepts of netriza and the retrograde. 95% of human beings live as their natural destiny. They are called netriza. 5% of humans have the ability to defy nature. With this ability, you gain freedom of life and enjoy economic freedom. A person who deviates from the puppets of Jieun's unconsciousness and self-consciousness, they are called retrogressors. The author compares a chicken on a farm as an example of a netriza. From birth, in a limited enclosure, fate is set. From a human point of view. But human life is also trapped in the fence of Jieun's unconsciousness and self-consciousness. People believe that they have free will, but it's just a delusion. When we all think the same thing, it means we think the same thing. A person who only thinks the same thing will never gain freedom. People who conform to the fate set by most of us are called netriza. On the other hand, the retrograde is a person who deviates from the Jieun's unconsciousness and self-consciousness attached to the fate of the fence. The artist suggests 7 steps to go through to become a retrograde. It is said that this is possible if you do it sequentially. Let's take a quick step-by-step look at the 7-step model to become a retrograde. Step 1. Deconstructing self-consciousness. Self-consciousness prevents humans from collapsing, but excessive abuse prevents our development. For example, I'm not interested in money. There's no way to be rich is mostly just a rationalization to avoid the hurt of self-consciousness. The moment you admit that you want money more than anyone else, it's because life is denied. In order to dismantle this self-consciousness, we must acknowledge our own shortcomings. Step 2. Create an identity. You can also call it a limit or goal that you have given yourself. Rather than being an ordinary Korean, I'm a person who can make 100 million won a month. People with identity are said to be more likely to succeed. If you can control your identity, you can reach your goal. When you go to the text, you will be covered on how to deliberately shape these identities. Step 3. Overcoming gene malfunction. Our bodies and instincts have evolved to suit primitive environments for hundreds of thousands of years. Looking at food, we had to eat it unconditionally so as not to starve to death. In modern times, such behavior acts as a risk factor for adult diseases. This false instinct is called klaj, and it can be prevented if we know the malfunction ordered by the Jieun in advance. Step 4. Brain automation. If you use your brain efficiently, it optimizes your brain. He mentions that even a little effort will make your brain more successful than others. If you get into a little habit, You can grow your brain with benefits throughout your life. The author says that if you automate your brain, you will automatically live well, and your brain will improve, so you don't have to try to die. And only when the brain is automated can the next step be implemented. Step 5. Knowledge of the retrograde. Humans make numerous judgments every day. If you make 1 or 2 good judgments every day compared to yesterday, after 10 years, good judgments are compounded. This power is so enormous that it widens the gap in life in the future, and ultimately gains freedom as well as money. Step 6. Specific routes to get economic freedom. The road to economic freedom is diverse. In the text, we deal with each situation, from unemployed to businessmen to office workers. I mentioned that I will explain those detailed steps. If you follow the steps well for each situation presented in the text, the chances of achieving economic freedom are very high. Step 7. Retrograde wheel. The last step is to continue the previous step repeatedly in order to continue it steadily. By instinct, humans have a fear of failure. Failure and defeat are directly linked to death in prehistoric times. However, the retrograde understands that this primitive fear is useless. Furthermore, they go against their instincts and level up, while deliberately losing. When the process of leveling up is repeated, at some point, you reach complete freedom without your knowledge. I briefly explained the 7 steps you need to practice in order to become a retrograde. The author reveals that he has no intention of forcing us to live with money to die, if we are concerned about whether ordinary humans can practice it. It is said that it is possible if you simply follow the basic principles you recommended. I read or write a book for 2 hours a day, and I take the rest of the time off. It's the best way to upgrade my brain. Once a day, take 5 minutes to think. Through this time, good decisions can be made on a daily basis. Play actively. You sleep well for more than 8 hours unconditionally. Playing is necessary for human happiness and health, and is a source of creativity. Those who try to die but don't get freedom are only immersed in a certain stage of the retrograde 7, or skip a few stages and don't succeed. The author believes that there is definitely a target book in the world. Let's get started, ready for freedom too.